Good evening, everyone.
Continue with
Hello? Okay. Hello? Okay, thank you. Sorry for this break in transmission. I think we are getting ourselves now. Okay, if there's no comment on the year planner, we have some information for our members. We'll be having a positive visit to Lagos State Vocational and Technical Board next week. So by the time they give us the exact date and time, we'll let you know. So be at alert. You can call any of us for this. Thank you.
I have okay. On this year planner. I think we should be able, this year planner be able to show another special event apart from industrial physics, technical physics. We should be able to have a special event, just like, for example, code and standard workshop, leadership training. We have talked about public lecture, technical workshop. So all those things, we have to look at this together. Innovation challenge, just like a career talk with the children, with the students. I think we have to add it to our year planner.
Okay, thank you, Honorable General Secretary. Noted. And we work on. Thank you very much. Comments? Okay. Do we have, if there's no comments, do we have new members who are coming for the first time online?
Yes, sir. I'm a new member.
Okay, can you raise your hand? If you are coming for the first time, just raise up your hand so that I can see you. We have 39 people online. We have seen 1, 2, Akim Ajao, Folashade Owo Sheni. Okay, only two people are new. Okay, that's good. You are welcome to NIMech.E platform, Lagos chapter. We hope that you will not be one-off member. Our meetings come second Wednesday of every month. We start by 4 p.m. and we have the normal general meeting, and after that, we have our technical session. This is a forum for all mechanical engineers where we interact and we discuss issues of common concern. During the interaction, it can be official in your working place. You have challenge, you have senior colleagues that you can meet, and that will be a good assistance in achieving your goal. There are so many things to gain by being a member of NIMech.E. So we hope that we'll be seeing more of you come next month, and you're going to even bring some other members, your friends and colleagues, your working place. So you're welcome. I can also see Fidelis Adewale. You are welcome. So
Thank
that's
you, sir.
3 new. You are most welcome.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. Yeah. We also celebrate those that are having their birthday in the month of meetings. This is February. For those of us that are born in February, whether February 1st or February 29, no, there's no 29 this year. So you see it's celebrated. So you can raise up your hand if you are born in February. Oh, that's great. Our honorable secretary is born in February.
February 15th.
That's great. Any other new member? Let's see your hands online. February born. Fidelis Adewale, Lukman.
Yes, sir.
Oh, happy birthday to all of you.
No, I'm not February born, but I'm a new member.
Okay, you are just raising up your hand now. Okay, you are welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So the February born, we have only Fidelis, or there's no February born apart from our general secretary.
And Engineer
Tanimo is not on it's not on that.
Attention, sir. I'm not February board. I'm a new member.
Okay,
I
Olusegun.
put all no Fidelis. I put all my mind down.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, okay. Do we have any information from anybody, any comments before we go for the technical session for today? Any comment, or anything you want to Can you raise up your hand for recognition?
Yes, sir. Hakeem.
Okay, Hakeem Ajao.
Yes, sir.
You can speak.
Yes, I can see you, sir. So, I want to commend the experts for putting up this platform and for allowing new members to join. Some of us, we are very new in the profession, and I'm very, very happy that we're able to have the online opportunity of joining, because if this opportunity has not been there, we wouldn't have been able to make it down there today. So I'm very, very happy to join, and meeting a senior colleague. I believe that over time we're going to gain experience from your wealth of experience and move on. Then on the issue of the technical program, I really look forward to that, and I'll be very, very happy to be part of that. I also heard you mention about the technical courtesy visits that is probably going to come up. I think you have said next week. So that's a very good one and a very good start for some of us. So we'll be happy to be part of it. I will be happy if we will have more of training, just like our secretary said. So for some of us that are just trying to navigate our path on the career path, so that we can actually get our foot rooted on this path. And also, if we have opportunity for some of us we are still out of, still out.
Please unmute yourself and then continue talking. There was a lot of background noise. Please unmute yourself back, sir.
Hello, sir.
Go ahead, go ahead.
So we can always have the opportunity of making our commitment fee up to date, and we can also contribute. So that's my submission. Thank you very much, sir.
Mr. or Engineer Ajao, you are welcome to the Mechanical Engineering Family Forum. And as I said earlier, you have a lot to gain. You have a lot to gain where you belong. So the focal point for this administration for the next 2 years is capacity building, and we are working towards that. I'm happy that as a new member, you are talking of training, and we have made mention of that during the course of the meeting, that we'll be doing more of collaboration with training outfits, where we can get our younger ones trained so that they can have the necessary skill that is needed in the industry. But that gap is there between the industry and the academia, where the new graduate finishes and you believe he's an engineer, he's not yet an engineer. So he has to pass through the necessary tutelage and training. The only advice I will have for the younger ones who are online, listen to me now, is that we should bend down. We should bend down and learn. Some of the younger ones, they believe that as soon as they have their PSC or they have masters, they are done. No, bend down, learn, be humble. Learn first, acquire the knowledge. Don't be too much money conscious that you are looking for money at the early stage of your career. Look for professionalism, look for experience. When you get the experience, when you get the right skill, money will look after you. People will they'll be looking for you where you hide. Don't look for money at the initial stage. What you need is experience. And you have people in this our forum that can give you free experience. They are ready, they are willing. They are ready, they are willing. Please, that's my candid advice for the younger ones. Thank you very much. Any other comments? Okay, please raise down your hand, Akim Ajao. Akim Ajao, please raise down your hand. Thank you. Any other comments or information from any member? Any observation? Okay. Thank you very much. Now, I think we can go for the technical session, since we are almost done with the normal things in the agendas of the meeting. So I will now call on, please, can you make Engineer Ogunnusi host so that I can share his screen? So I will now call on Engineer Ogunnusi to get prepared for his technical section. Before then, the technical secretary will share with us the citation of the presenter before it goes ahead. Technical secretary. Oh, yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
we
yes, we can hear you. Yes,
Okay, thank you very much. We are welcome to the February technical session. And today we have in our midst one of our senior colleagues. Not only one of our senior colleagues, but somebody from outside the country who will be speaking to us on report writing, essentials for technical reporting and academic paper. The person I'm talking about is Engineer Adeniyi Ogunnusi, a member of the Nigerian Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, and he has several other degrees. Just a little about him. Engineer Ogunnusi graduated from Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria in 1974 with a first-class degree in mechanical engineering. He has a diploma in petroleum engineering and an MSc in low energy building services, engineering from Loughborough University, UK. Engineer Ogunnusi, please, excuse me if I didn't get the name very well.
Okay.
Okay, sir. He worked for a few years in the upstream sector of the Nigerian oil and gas industry, after which he commenced a career in electrical and mechanical engineering consultancy, which culminated in the founding of Kosen Associates in 1986. As managing partner of the company, he has been associated with the design, supervision, and contract administration of a wide range of building types and projects nationwide. He is promoter of the use of alternative energy as a part of steps towards achieving zero net carbon emission by 2025 in Nigeria, and an approved graduate of PRESENTATED. Adeniyi Ogunnusi, Engineer Adeniyi Ogunnusi, sir, is married with children and a life member of the Full Gospel Businessmen Fellowship International. I have the pleasure to invite Engineer Ogunnusi to take over the floor for his presentation. Engineer Ogunnusi.
Thank you very much, Technical Secretary. Mr. Chairman, NIMech.E, members and guests, it's a special privilege and an honor for me to have the opportunity to share with us today some of my thoughts on the issue of report writing. I have a couple of slides, and I reckon that this presentation will take about 30 to 35 minutes, after which we might have some time for a question and answer session. Have you given me a chance to share my slide from here? I don't have access yet.
Please go ahead and share, sir.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay.
Okay, we can see. We can see it.
How about now?
Yes.
We can see it now, sir.
Thank you very much. So we'll be talking about report writing, essentials for technical reporting and academic papers. This is a technical paper presented at the meeting of the Nigerian Institution of Mechanical Engineers today, Wednesday, the 9th of February, 2022. By way of introduction, I want to talk about the essence of reporting. What is the essence of reporting? The essence of reporting is to convey information either for the records, in case of storing it as a record, or for decision making. Sometimes it can be for both. And for that reason, a typical report would have an introductory part, a main body, and then the recommendations and conclusions. So a full report is a piece of document that enables the reader to read the writer's mind And so every report must be composed and delivered in such a way that it has the desired effect. If we understand what the writer has written, it will be like a leader who has no followers. You might just be taking a walk in the park. A reporting format would usually consist of having a structure, lexis, a grammar, punctuation, illustration. Now, these are basic requirements for the English language. Unfortunately, in my experience, in the few years that I've been in professional practice, many of the engineers write reports that are not comprehensible in the sense of grammar, even though it can make a lot of technical sense. Because an engineer would write reports for everyone, those in his discipline, his permanent secretary, his director, his managing director, who may be people from other professions. A report that an engineer would write cannot be excused on grounds of poor grammar or English. And I think the less time we spend on social media, the better it is for us. Let's find a way to upgrade our English. Sometimes I watch the TV in Nigeria, and even when news items are being read out, you find a lot of grammatical error. Now, so that's basic for any report. But when you come to technical reporting, this is slightly different from other types of report, because a technical report is for education. Usually it will make a recommendation to the reader. And in many cases, major decisions are anchored on the contents of the report, which means it must be technical. Academic reporting is even more difficult. It is different from technical reporting in the sense that academic writings are usually for research. The additional requirement for academic reporting, in addition to what I have said about reporting generally and technical reporting, is that in academic environments, there is a format for every presentation and every writing. There is a language that is permissible in the academic community. And academic reporting must not only be factual, it must be accurate. In Nigeria, I hear different grades of people, they are talking about a particular situation in an area. They just mention a percentage. You can't do that in the academic environment. So someone would just come to television and say, 90%. 90% is a favorite percentage for Nigerians to use when they're speaking. 90% of Nigerians are not in school. I don't know how they came by those percentages. In academic reporting, you cannot put a number or a statistic that is indefensible, that has not been proven, tried, and tested. So your writing must be accurate, and it must give credit to the source from where information has been taken. So if, for instance, you say to me that the out-of-school children in Nigeria presently is 200 million or 40 million or 5 million or whatever, you need to tell us, is that information from the Federal Office of Statistics? Is it from the Ministry of Education? Is it from a document that has been written emphasizing the policy of government concerning education? It has to be properly referenced. Now, the other addition that is more critical and more important in the academic environment is the issue of plagiarism. In regular reporting and technical writing, many times they are not subjected to additional analysis, neither are the contents interrogated. But when you write in the university environment, and it is good for every engineer to aspire to that standard, you must not use another person's material without acknowledging it. If you did, you'll be accused of plagiarism. Let me say straight away that today, technology has come to a point where if you plagiarize, they don't need to know whose work you are copying. They simply put your write-up through the computer. And when the computer is able to identify a large chunk of your report, several sentences in their exact words, sometimes even in the same font, they know that you have plagiarized. And plagiarization is measured in percentages. There's a tolerant level of unoriginal document that is allowed in your own write-up. And when you exceed that threshold, then you stand the risk of plagiarism, which not only will make you forfeit your documentation, but you're also liable to prosecution. What are the reporting tools? How can I get a good report? The basic tool, the most important, the easiest to use is the internet. If you want to learn how to do anything today, you can find it on the internet, ranging from how to barb your son's hair to preparing pounded yam in the night when your wife is not available. And there are many research websites that you can explore. When you are looking for information, you'll find that information by typing out some keywords. You put it on the net, and everyone who has published, advertised, or carried out studies in that field will give you that information that you need as it pops up. And sometimes it can come in hundreds of thousands of information or different documentation. You then can begin to sift through that and reduce, introduce additional search words to reduce the number to a manageable level. So clearly there are research websites, and then there are also softwares that you can use and also other programs for the purpose of getting your reports from the internet. When you have all the reports, you are able to, all the information, you're able to assemble the document, then you can write a preliminary report or technical writing or academic report. Then you vet. To vet means to go through it over and over again and check the accuracy, check the sources, check that the packaging is well done. But by far, the most important thing to do, if you have the chance and the opportunity, is to get a peer to review your report. Whatever you have written, give it to someone who is knowledgeable, if possible, more knowledgeable than yourself, and get that person to read the write-up. And once he's done with that, he can send you his own comments. Let me say straight away that only last year I discovered that your peer reviewer does not need to be in your area of core competence. A good report is a good report. So a report written by an engineer can actually be reviewed by a medical doctor or a lawyer who has experience in the area of technical writing, particularly in the academic environment. Sometimes that is more desirable even for regular reporting, because when you write a report as an engineer, let's say you are working in a company and you have corporate clients, you are writing a report for the MD of First Bank, for instance. He's not an engineer. You need to be able to put your points together in such a way that reading your report, he can see what you have written, understand it, and make an informed decision on the basis of what has come to him. So it isn't always that your peer reviewer needs to be another engineer. If you can find someone who is good at reporting and at checking other people's works, that's probably more credible. Perhaps that is a line of business for some people who may have extensive experience. You can have a company that will peer review other people's papers and come back to them, with their own report. Once all of that is done, then your paper is ready for publication, in the case of those who are writing academic papers, or for circulation, if you are sending a report to your boss or to your clients or to government agency. And so those are the basic requirements. Now, what is the essence of reporting? Essentially, a report is a short, sharp, concise document which is written for a particular purpose and audience. I took that information from the internet under a name called Skills You Need, the Essentials of Writing. That's the way to reference a material. So if you Googled and you got this word, the definition for a report, if I didn't put my source there, you may think it's my creation. Now, by giving credit to the source, I have not only owned up that I'm not the originator of that definition, I have more or less also protected myself from attacks in the future, because they will say, no, this wasn't written by him. That's where I got it from. Key things that need to be achieved in a report: it must be short, it must be sharp, it must be concise. The effectiveness of a report does not consist of the number of words. Indeed, sometimes when a report is verbose, unnecessarily long, it can become irritating, inaccurate, unfriendly, to the point that you may not be able to achieve the desired report effect, which means there's what can be regarded as a suitable length in terms of the amount of information that you have in the report. Let me also make some points concerning some minor differences that we have in the ways that reports are defined. First, you have a regular report, which is just something that you put together to facilitate record keeping. Let's say you visited a factory, you came back, and the MD of your company says to you, what did you find when you visited? Now that's a report that is filed for the record. An essay, on the other hand, is a bit more elaborate because it's a kind of report that discusses issues. You can be asked to write an essay as a mechanical engineer. What are the advantages of an air-cooled chiller compared with a water-cooled chiller? I'm sure you know the difference between the two of them. One of them has the cooling tower, the other doesn't. And the advantages of one are different from the advantages of the other. They both have advantages and disadvantages. In the Nigerian environment, it may be better to use one as different from the other. That's a technical essay. A dissertation is a write-up, a report that is indexed on the award of a degree. And universities use this interchangeably. They use either the word dissertation or thesis. Essentially, it is not only technical, these two, they are also very, very academic. And there are standing rules governing their production. But by and large, dissertation and thesis are the same. While a report is to convey some information in the most concise and accurate way to a reader for decision-making or for record purposes, I already said that. You should consider your audience or the reader in preparing your report because it must meet their needs. If you write a report and the person to whom it has been submitted cannot make any sense out of what you have written, then you need to rewrite it. So when I was preparing this paper, for instance, I was concerned about my audience. Who are the people I'll be speaking to? This is not a political rally. I'm not making a speech to market women. I'm talking to professional engineers. And so my language is going to be in engineering. I'm going to be dressed up for the meeting because it's a technical session. I'm going to comport myself. I'm going to mind my language and use decent professional language. And that is exactly the way we should see reports when we prepare them. So what is a report made of? Essentially, there are at least 3 clearly different parts. And the word clearly is to let you know that you cannot join one part to the other. At least from English language school, you will remember that they must be in separate paragraphs. The first part of a report is the introduction. The introduction breaks the ground concerning the reason for that report, why you are doing it and what it is set to achieve. Let's say I'm an engineer, I'm asked to visit a site that has just experienced a fire outbreak. And I come to the site, I've taken some pictures, I've interviewed some people, I've taken a walk around the site, I've seen the adjoining buildings, seen the extent of damage and dilapidation, I've looked at the walls, I've seen the areas where there's more scar than the others, signifying the point of commencement of the fire. Now I'm back at my table. I want to write an introduction to a report that is covering a fire outbreak. So an introduction will go something like, this report is to give an idea of what happened in so-so-so place on so-so-so dates, why the fire outbreak occurred or the likely reasons why they occurred, and the extent of damage and what the remedial measures or the way of rehabilitation of the building can be effected. Essentially, the length of introduction shouldn't be more than between 10 to 15% of the total overall length of the write-up, because the introduction is not the main body. It is just to give the reader an idea of what the report is about. The busy executives, many times, they read the introduction properly, they scan the main body, and they read the conclusion. They don't have time. So you need to package your report in such a way that the reader will be able to operate the way that he wants, in a way that he can save his own time. So you must properly introduce the subject, and the reader may be depending on you for the background information. That's the reason you went to this site where there's fire outbreak. You went alone. He didn't go with you. He's going to be relying on your introduction to picture exactly what happened there. Is this a building that is normally prone to fire outbreak? Is it in an area where there's a risk of abuse by people lurching around, cooking, and so on and so forth? If he has paid you to do a report, he doesn't need to go there, but your introduction must give him a proper picture of what happened there. The second part of your report is the main body. The main body will deal with the subject in greater details, leaving nothing out. It must state the assumptions and the implications, make a progressive and convincing argument. It must be professional without being too deep. Tables, graphs, and illustrations make a lot of difference. Now, here's the score. When you write the main body, it should be technical enough to give the reader the effects or the information he needs, and not too detailed to be a source of encouragement. If I was writing a report of a fire outbreak at the National Assembly building, now let me not mention a building just in case fire happens tomorrow, they won't say I put the fire there. It happens in a building that you know somewhere. And you are invited after a week as an engineer to go to the site. In writing a report on what the cause of the fire is, you must be technical enough to say to the reader or the company that has commissioned you, or even if it's your employer, that the fire happened because someone struck a match or a gas cylinder exploded or there's a fire outbreak. Now, as an engineer, if you're in charge of fire designs, you will know that combustion in fire is caused by three things that must all necessarily be present. The first is the material that burns, called the combustible material. The second is the temperature, which is having the material or the combustible at a particular temperature. The third is oxygen. You need oxygen for fire to burn. So as an engineer, you know that if all three are not present, you can't have a fire outbreak, which explains why fires are put out by using water, because what the water does is to envelope the fire in such a way that it doesn't get a fresh supply of oxygen, so it doesn't burn any further. But you see, that's too detailed for the managing director of First Bank. He's not interested in knowing that you need a carbonaceous material or oxygen or temperature for fire to happen. But all you need to say to him is, someone sparked something, or something caused a spark and the thing caused fire. However, if you are writing the report for your immediate boss or writing to the Federal Fire Authority, you may need to be deeper in the technical content of the main body, because such people will understand the composition that needs to be achieved for you to have a fire outbreak. So it will not be out of place to mention the three things that I've mentioned earlier, which means therefore that the extent of depth to which you go into technical matters in a report in the main body is heavily dependent on the person to whom the report is being made, or the person who is reading the report. The third part of the report is that you must conclude it and make some specific recommendations. And that conclusion and recommendation must necessarily flow from the argument in the main body of the report. A report is meaningless if it does not facilitate decision-making, or if it does not sufficiently represent an activity for future use. So you can't write a report and write a conclusion or a recommendation that is hydra-headed or loose-ended. I've seen some reports, for instance, tender reports, when people write, consultants of engineering firms, they write a report, they make a conclusion or recommendation that's neither here nor there. If you write a report after tender and you say to the owner of the project, you can give it to who you like. He ought not to have hired you because you haven't done a good job. Let me say straight away that sometimes reports are not acted upon the way we expect them to, or the reader to do. But it still does not exonerate you from preparing a report in such a way that any sane person who is interested in taking a decision based on recommendations from a professional will see that you have made a recommendation. So we ought not to be scared of writing conclusions and recommendations, even when we know that the clients may not agree with us. If you are writing a technical report, you better be technical and forget about the political implications of your report writing. So that brings us to the end of the three most important things: introduction, the main body, and the conclusion. What is the essence of reporting? Here are some pitfalls that you need to avoid. Number one, stick to one tense. Reports tend to be past tense. In most cases, reports are past tense because you are reporting something that has already happened. But academic papers are usually present tense. And I believe that many of us who are on this platform today, if we have a university degree, we would have done a project in our final year. And we would have noticed that in writing our project report, you use the present tense. That is, you mix this with that, you achieve this, you do this, you are reporting in present tense. So you are also free to use present tense in academic papers. In fact, that is preferred because you will be writing as if you are just still carrying on the investigation. But clearly, if you are doing minutes of meeting, it has to be in the past tense. Now here, grammar, lexics, and structure must be correct. Time elements must relate to the tense. I've read minutes of meetings where they will say, the chairman spoke to us and said he was going to visit the site the following day. There's nothing like the following day, because that following day is the day following the meeting. When you come to the next meeting and you are reading the following day, that day will be already passed. I'm sorry, you say we will visit the site, the matter tomorrow. I'm sorry to make that correction. There's nothing like tomorrow in minutes. It has to be the following day. So when you are writing in the report, in the past tense as a report, you need to edit the word that comes to you or your experience, you know, to be able to capture the essence of the time difference. That's what I mean by grammar. Also, a report must be properly presented by the use of paragraphs, references, line numbers, sections, tables, graphical illustrations. We are going to see a few. Appearance of your report must have a good look and feel. There are some reports when you see them the way they are put together, you are discouraged. The font may be too small and you are squinting. It may be too large, and if you consume a lot of paper and ink to print. Generally, for reports, there are recommended font types and sizes. Either you use Book Antiqua, or you use Calibri, or you use Arial, or you use, there are quite a few of them. And font size is usually between 10 and 12. That's why sometimes when you are giving a page count in a report, it is because it is predicated on a particular font size. Because if you did font size 16 in place of 11, you have a very voluminous report. And nobody is interested in turning paper for the sake of turning paper. Even if it was doing it electronically, it's still going to end up as many pages. So when your report is being put together as you write it, make sure that it looks good and it feels good, because that will have an effect on the person who is reading. Another pitfall to avoid is a pitfall that comes from fatigue and work stress. Reports are best written when your mind is relaxed and under a very good atmosphere. Don't write a report in the night when you just came back from work. You are hungry and your wife is trying to make your dinner, your children are making noise, and generally you're very unhappy. Sometimes your mood gets transferred into your writing. It's not a good time. That's the reason why when you have finished writing a report, it is better for you to look at it with next day eyes. Some of my classmates call it fresh eyes, which is you write it, you leave it. Then you go to bed and wake up and review it. Sometimes it's better to use a peer. Get someone who is also used to report writing to help you check your report before you send it. A good practice in an office of a consulting engineer will be for an engineer of a particular grade to write a report and to pass it to his immediate boss or someone who has supervising authority over him to check. I can read any report in any time under any condition, and I don't need to read the entire report. I first look at the way the report is laid out. I look at the font sizing. I look at the paragraphing. I look at the few arguments. I read the opening. I skip the body and read the conclusion. If I'm convinced that it's a paper worth reading, then I go back and read the full paper again. You must not write your report in such a way that the person does not have the reader does not have the confidence to go through it because he has noticed certain things that will never make the report satisfactory or good. So we go now to the types of reports as we close this first part. The first is a regular report. A regular report is just an activity of an event or like the minutes of the meeting, but they must still have precision and accuracy. There's usually no need for verbatim reporting. You write a summary. It can now be recorded and transcribed or simply shared as a recorded message. So that is a bonus. Technology has made it possible now that if you can't write the minutes of a report, of a meeting as you are seated, you actually can record it, and then you go back and transcribe it. Usually when you write minutes of meetings, and I've seen this done in many places, people tend to report the meeting verbatim. Engineer Adeniyi Ogunnusi says so. No, in his reply, Engineer Olusegun said this. No, when he was looking at it, Mr. Soso said so. You don't need who said what. You only need to say that at the meeting, we discussed how to improve the finances of Nigeria Institution of Mechanical Engineers. And the meeting agreed that members must be reminded regularly to pay their dues. Full stop. It's shorter. It doesn't commit anybody. and then the message is conveyed, which is the essence of reporting. So a regular report is by far the easiest because it follows the basic rule of correct grammar, 3 parts: content, accurate information, brevity of information, and nicely put together in moderate English. We don't need Wale Soyinka to write a report. Every engineer who is trained and has a university degree ought to be able to prepare a document that you can read and make some sense out of it. But maybe technical reporting is a bit more difficult than that, than the ordinary or regular report. The difference being that you are now talking about technical issues. Let's say, for instance, you went to a site to investigate a particular situation. On one of our sites recently, I think 4 or 5 weeks back, they had a problem. The diesel pump was working, but it was not bringing diesel to the day tanks from the bulk storage tank. Now, clearly, if you went to that site and came back, possibly with pictures, you are going to report the event as an investigation or a field study. In that kind of case, you will not only report what you have seen, you ought to be able, in the main body, look at the things that can cause that kind of failure. And then in the conclusion part of that report, state the things that need to be done. That will be a technical report, a report that is not only factual, but goes beyond the regular reporting because it is stopping technical issues. What are the things that can make a pump not to deliver? One of them is if the pump is sucking air. It will be delivering air instead of diesel. And what can cause that to happen? It means it has a negative suction head. Many of us know that from A-level physics. And if you're a mechanical engineer, you would have known that from fluid dynamics. And so when you are reporting that, you will say, as a matter of fact, you cannot say the pump was not working well and we didn't know what happened. Then they ought to have sent a banker to do that site visit and do the report. But as an engineer, you must be able to talk about the technical reasons why that could happen. And it may well point out that the design in itself was defective. Because if you are sucking from a ground tank into an elevated tank and the pump is running, it's not as if there's no power supply to the pump. You can hear the pump run. Then if it is sucking air instead of the fluid, it means that in the part of the piping works where you are supposed to dip into the fluid, there's a gap. And even if there was a gap, you could have primed the pump. And in the ancient, long time ago when we started practice, before package pumps came, you prime a pump by making, rather than the elbow that goes into the pump, you make it a T and put a cap on the head so that you pour the fluid first into that suction line before the pump takes off. Engineer Sam Aibo, I recognize you. You are my teacher, so you will know what I'm talking about. But in those days, in addition to that, on the suction side of the pump, you will put a non-return valve and you will put a foot valve and strainer. The work of those two, the strainer is to keep out the dirty materials. The non-return valve is to ensure that the flow is only in one direction, such that when the pump stops to run, the diesel that is in that head returns and fills up the column of fluid, such that when you run the pump a second time, you can only have that problem of failure only once. Once you have primed it, the pump ought to work after that point, except of course, there's another reason. So if an engineer goes to a site, he goes to do a survey or field study and he comes back and he comes to tell me that, well, he checked the pump was not working. He didn't know what the cause of it. My first question to him would have been, what could have caused it? If he has gone to a good university, he ought to know that when the pump is not working, it's a suction problem. First, now when you solve the suction side, you will then look at the discharge side. Maybe the head is higher than the rating of the pump, which means that investigation ought to start with the pump. Actually, when you get to the site, you take the pictures of the pump casing. There you will find the flow rate and the head. And if you are convinced that that head shown as the performance of the pump is higher than the situation on the site, there's no reason for the pump not to work. In other words, a technical report must contain some element of technical discussions and argument, showing your engineering knowledge. Otherwise, that report cannot benefit from your experience, and it will be better to send somebody else. If you are writing a report, for instance, as a result of a tender exercise, which is also a technical report, you are comparing figures submitted through quotations by different contractors. You want to be sure they are quoting the same thing. If you are in the HVAC system, you know that if you use a Samsung project, material or LG, it's not the same as Daikin. So clearly, if they're not pricing the same materials, they cannot come to the same figure. If the contractors are not of the same category or grade, even using the same materials, they will never come to the same figures because the bigger companies have a higher overheads. But if you are an indigenous company, your overheads are lower. The difference may be that you don't have the experience that the other people have, because Baba Job Nigeria Limited cannot be the same as Julius Berger. So when you are going to tender, you have to do well by selecting companies that are already in the same bracket in terms of competence and performance. If the tender list was not compiled by you, but what the compilation was done by your employers, say your clients, then you exonerate yourself from that blame. But clearly in your report, one of the things you are going to say, even in the introduction, is that it is not possible for you to analyze these different offers because it will be like comparing apples to oranges. That requires some technical depth. If you are designing for a project, for instance, that is located in some parts of Nigeria, say in Abuja or Victoria Island, Victoria Island is not Ikeja. If you install AC equipment in Victoria Island that are not protected against corrosion, rust, seawater, and sand, then it's likely to deteriorate faster. Your specifications must carry those additional requirements, which means those who are pricing the contract must be aware of your specifications. So if you see two offers, same grade of company for the same material, and their pricing is not the same, perhaps they haven't looked closely at the specifications. It is your duty to point that out, because what works in Ikeja may not work on Victoria Island for the reasons that I have explained. If you are writing a business proposal also, in analyzing the returns that you expect on your investment, you ought to be a bit technical. Right now, you know that in the Nigerian market, there is, for every product or type of consumable, there is a preferred brand. You will find that on Lagos roads, there are more Toyota brand vehicles in every grade than every other brand of vehicle. If you are doing a business proposal and you want a Hilux as your delivery man, and you are putting that proposal together, you must be able to say to the bank that is going to lend you money that I have chosen this particular vehicle because of its longevity, its comfort, because the banker will be wondering, why are you choosing Toyota? Why don't you go for something else? It may not even be a four-wheel branded vehicle, but you need to be able to tell the reader that because of the environment in which you are working, which is largely unmotorable, you need a vehicle of a particular type, capacity, and operation. That explains that's the technical part of the report. That's why it's not the same as just any ordinary report. The academic or research paper is by far the one that is most exigent in terms of requirements. The first is that you want to present the results of a specific short study. If you are writing, for instance, about how tires wear out on Nigerian roads, you will not be talking about shock absorbers. You will not be talking about air conditioning in the vehicle. You are writing only about tires, and you'll be concerned about issues that affect the tire. One of them is the quality of the surface on which the vehicle is driven. So you will do an investigation only in that area. And when you are doing an investigation, you may sometimes need to verify it. You cannot say because traffic is heavy on Lekki roads, the tires get worn out quicker or less quickly. You need to investigate that. You need to interrogate that situation. You need to verify it. When you have done that, you need to validate it. Validation is to compare the results of a research or a study with information that is already known. Today, NNPC tells us the quantity of petrol that we consume in Nigeria daily. That figure is changing like a clock. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. You cannot use that kind of statistic to validate an academic research because you are likely to be in error because of the inaccuracy of the validation material. Now, when you also are doing an academic research, sometimes you are doing it to break new grounds. When you are breaking new grounds in a study, you not only will look at the study and report it, you are going to put it to the test. I was told that in the days of old, Italian engineers, when they finish designing a bridge, the first day that a vehicle goes on top of the bridge, they go and stand underneath the bridge just to prove that they are sure of what they have designed. So if you are breaking new grounds, you must be ready to do some extraordinary tests. No one has done what you are doing. No one has done what you are doing now before. So proving that thing has to require your presence. Not too long ago, I was watching a program. I think it was on WhatsApp, a very short video clip of a professor. Some of you may have seen it, who was teaching students physics in a class, and he was demonstrating the movement of a pendulum and the effect that it has when kinetic energy is converted to static energy, I think. In other words, a difference in height. The total energy content of that ball is the same, but when it is swinging, it's more kinetic than when it is static and it's a different height. The professor stood in front of his class and let the ball go, and he explained to his class that because it was that pendulum was bound to arrive at a particular destination all the time, he stood there in front of it and said to them that if the ball hit him, then it means that he didn't make his point. I'm not suggesting that you take unnecessary risks, but academic research and papers must be properly validated, especially when you are breaking new grounds. Usually, an academic paper is called by the name dissertation or thesis, but that is just a nomenclature that the institutions use to make a difference. We will be looking mostly at the last two in the rest of our conversation tonight, technical reporting and academic reporting. We will not talk so much about the regular reports. What are the main sources of information and the tools that you need in writing a report? That's a research or a study. The first is your personal experience. In putting any report together, you yourself must sit down and think about what you know about what you want to write. It may be your previous trip or a visit or a research or a study. If you have video recordings and photographs, they come in handy. I remember that a few years ago, we were collaborating with a company in Ibadan. We were required to work on a project for a university in Akwa Ibom, and we did a site visit to that location. We had a brief from the end users as well as a cost limit from those who are going to finance the study. So that whole trip was a field trip. We took pictures of barren land. Some of you will be wondering, if you saw the pictures, if you were wondering, why is the man taking pictures of a barren land with no building on it? The truth is we wanted to capture the vegetation. We wanted to see the slope of the site so that we know how to do the storm drainage. We went and checked all the gutters in that neighborhood and checked their inverts to see the direction of flow. We took pictures to show the power distribution on the site, which by the way was at variance with what the university gave us. So I came back with a load of pictures, a lot of write-ups, some interview materials, speaking to the end users in the classrooms, what would you require? This building had to have a workshop as well. So what are the equipment that you are going to put in the workshop? What are their weights? What are their physical dimensions? What are their power requirements? So we needed to visit the website of equipment suppliers and so on. In putting together a site visit report, therefore, I had all the information that I needed to make that study. And in writing a report, it must make sense. So I used the agenda given to us by the university to report everything that happened, how we were received. So I was able to say the first day we visited the site, the second day we spoke with end users, the third day we did this, we did that. So the agenda for that entire trip became like the summary around which I was able to weave a report. And after I wrote the report, it became useful. As we began to put the designs together, we now knew how to drain the water if it rained on the site, how far the nearest pole connection was. Just from looking at the architect's drawings, we already were able to estimate, the transformer capacity. So I was able to say, okay, this is what we have here. Because if you don't have an 11 kV, you want a transformer for the site, you need to go look for that because you can't tee off a low voltage system. By the way, I'm very enough into electrical, but the principles are the same. If you were designing the same building, you want to look at the site water distribution arrangement. You want to see if there's storm water drainage, to see the direction of flow, so that you can tie up your storm leader. You want to see if it has a central sewage treatment plant. Otherwise, you're going to rely on septic tank security. You want to see how the levels relate to themselves because water will not go uphill unless you put a pump. So your experience during a trip or a visit and some studies that you will carry out, maybe on the internet, together with video recordings and photographs, they come in handy when you are doing a report. If there are previous reports on the same matter, they will be useful. From previous reports, you will see the language of reporting. If you are working for a client who is used to doing maybe, let's say fast food outlets or restaurants, they've done one, they've done two, they've done three, someone would have written reports for them in the past. Take a look at what they've done in the past. That accomplishes two things. The first is that it makes you know the status or the quality of work that your clients have been getting. And you'll be better challenged because if they've been talking to expatriate companies and the board of directors say, okay, let's use a Nigerian company, and you go and give them a report from Adeniyi, they're likely to throw you out. So you need to see the previous reports, look at their quality, check if that company has standard formats, see if there are samples in their office, and then you use your own template or use their template. Sometimes when farms get busy enough, you actually have your own templates. We have a template for site visits already. So what you need to do is to take that same template, follow the pattern that has been used in the past, replace it with the new fresh information, and in no time at all, you have a report that is handy. So as you build up a practice or your work in the ministry or anywhere, whether you're self-employed, even as a manufacturer, let every report that you are doing now be a kind of template. There'll be as many templates as there are reports, because a report for site visit is different from a report to a visit to an equipment manufacturer. It's different from a report to investigate an occurrence, like an explosion, or like the building that came down in Victoria Island in Ikoyi, the 21-story building. There are different types of reports, but the same type of report can always be used as a template for a similar report. Academic records will help if you are doing an academic paper. You will not only see the materials that have been done in that location, you will see the look and feel of the report, you see the presentation style, you see, but that is only the basic, because in the case of academic papers, your research is not going to be based on what the university has given you locally. It's going to be based more on international research papers that have been presented, technical documents presented to professional bodies. And so your search is not in the university archives only, your search is actually wider than that, and you need to be able to identify it and work with that. The internet is a good source of information for report writing, especially now that we're looking at technical and academic. There are many search engines that are used, such as Mendeley, Elsevier, IBM, SPC, Google, and so many. And any of these will help you to do a proper search. The software that is most useful for report writing is Microsoft Office, the Word part, the Excel, the PowerPoint. These three are very, very powerful tools. This report that I'm presenting to you, this presentation was done only over 2 days. And everything I did came from this software. A good knowledge of word processing is handy, comes in handy. The reason being that you are able to think and work on your laptop at the same time. In the days when we were copying reports by hand, you will copy section 2, then go and look for section 3. Now, when you're word processing, you can start a report from the conclusion. You simply go to that section, give it the heading, leave it there. If you find information in the middle of the night, some thoughts occur to you that can help you with your conclusion, you put them in there, because you can always take those things out and you can put them back. You must learn how to use a combination of files. If you are doing a report, you know how to use the Word, and then you know how to use PDF files. You convert to Word and import. You know how to use these two to now finally set up, like a PowerPoint presentation like I've done. This presentation was done in Word, but eventually converted to PowerPoint so I can make this presentation. Page arrangement is important, because for academic papers, they are specific about whether your report is single or double in terms of column. So you must respect the requirements of academic papers. And sometimes also, even for regular technical reports to companies, if you are working for Shell or Mobil or Chevron, they have their standards. They're going to tell you what the cover design is like, the approval page, the font size, the footer, the nota, the header, and all of those things are going to be there. So it's important for you to know what you want to achieve so that you can choose the correct font type, the size, the spacings, whether singular, the header, and also the footer, in addition to the pagination of the document. Now, here are samples of something I did last night when I was preparing for this. This is how to assemble the materials for a good report. You go on the internet and you take the information from there. On the left, you find the University of Lagos invitation card. I saw this on their website and just picked it, which means that you can import any material into your report. In the middle part, you find a picture showing the marina, I guess from a Apapa side or from a ship. So if you are doing a report for Union Bank, this will be a good cover because that's their logo there. On the extreme right is something in which something about which I'm a bit passionate. This is Makoko Okobaba area, where there's a lot of logging and felling of logs and cutting of logs to make planks for construction. But by far, the residue that they are leaving in this business, which is sawdust, is something that can be of interest to people in the future. So this is a sample of what you can do when you have reported the correct information, writing your reports. You can name it as you like. So your experience, as we said before, your trip, your study, your research, video recordings. This is how you put them to use in writing your report. You assemble them as one document. Reports are richer with pictures, and you are limited only by your imagination. You can do anything in writing a report with pictures. Sometimes the pictures tell all the story. That reduces the amount of information that you need to give. Here, I was trying to do a design for someone who may want to set up a shoemaking factory. I just came up with the idea. So I looked for previous reports, look for standard formats, office samples as we discussed. Then I came up with this template. How about if I give the person a nice cover of a lady's shoes, even though the person may be making safety shoes. But with this cover, I'm going to draw attention to that proposal. This technical proposal is going to go further. So here I'm working with a hypothetical report talking about a proposed shoe factory in Ijebu. That's the cover. I call it a feasibility report. And the name of the consultant is Kokombilo Engineering Company. This report was written 12th of June 2022. This is a sample of what a cover design can be for a good report. This is a good cover for a feasibility study, just to show you what you can do. But if you were writing technical papers, perhaps you are looking at something a bit more decent. Here I was pretending to write a research paper on energy consumption. So I took this extract from the Nigerian Energy Reform Council, Regulation Council, and these documents that I'm pointing out to you now were all taken from the published and advertised document. So if I was writing an article that talks about legislation or regulation, quality of power that we are supposed to get from the public, this is a good source. And when I take extracts from this document, I can present them in the way you are looking. And then I will only just need to acknowledge the source of that information. So on the right-hand side, you see some graphs. These are just things to demonstrate or to show what I'm about to talk about in fewer words, but using pictures. That's why you find that these days, actually, if you went to an international airport, you don't get to see people writing toilets and things anymore. They just write a woman on a door and write a man on the other door, and then you can get, it's only at the entrance they would have put toilets. Sometimes they even don't put the word, because in order to operate in an international environment, you don't need to translate all the language. You can use the pictures. So you know where the toilets are, you know where the elevators are. They just draw an elevator. You know where the staircases are, they draw a staircase. So you can animate your report to make it interesting, so that when the reader sees it, he will think that he will spend less time because you already have taken the steps to illustrate what you're trying to say. So the key is to master the use of Microsoft Office. If you want to get a good report and you want to enhance the quality of your reporting, you need to get a hang of Microsoft Office, which will give you all you need to be able to put together a good report. So as I close this section, here are some of the things that you need to note. Good knowledge of word processing, how to combine files, and how to save them. Finally, you may be saving in PDF, you need to know that. Then you need to do a good page arrangement, single or double column, header or footer, and then the different font size types. You standardize them. Usually Arial 11 is good, 1.5 spacing. You can use bold or italics, and then you can use symbols. At the bottom of this slide, see the effect I've created. I've given different font sizes and thicknesses, A, B, C, D, E, C, D, G, C, D, H. Now in the middle, I put Concept Associates. That's our logo. We've used it for 36 years now, I think. And that hasn't changed. It's a particular font and a particular color. Sometimes you don't remember companies' names. You remember their logo. Coca-Cola Cursive is Coca-Cola Cursive. It's been like that for 100 years. Next to that, I just did a logo for somebody who might want to open a barbing salon, Igbalode Babas. That's all in red. You can see the logo. That name can actually become a logo. Next to that, I did a design for someone who might want to run a catering company. I call it Turnaround Cuisine. That is the name, designed in purple color. But that arrow turnaround is a symbol. So that becomes the logo of the company. When I do to you a feasibility report and I put this kind of things in the cover, when I send you an invoice, you'll be gentleman enough to pay because I've already attracted your attention. I'm talking about technical reporting here. So a technical report necessarily may be something you do after an event, and if you investigated or carried out a study. And a design, the cover must have a design. You need to, I'm going on to the practicals. How do you write or assemble a report? First, you need to design a cover. If you design a cover that is attractive, it will be very interesting when the reader receives it. It may even be an ordinary cover design. But a logo tells more stories than 1,000 words. So get the logo and put it at the back. So if you are doing a report for Shell or maybe Chevron, Federal Ministry of Works or State government, get their logo. Every government organization or company has a logo. Get the logo, put it on the file. Then you save the work with a file name because a report may be written over many days. It's not the one I did overnight. It can take as long as 8 weeks. So if you save it with the file name, it's easy for you to go back to that report. And because you are regularly, in word processing, you are regularly updating, when every time you write something new, you keep that name and put a date and a revision number so that when you come, you will know where you stopped and you can discountenance the older versions. Make sure you select the correct font, the correct size, the correct spacing, correct paragraphing. Make sure that your report is in sections and numbering. And this has to be done from the very beginning. Now you list the headings with their numbers, starting each heading on a new page. Start with a table of contents. In other words, you do a cover, then in page 2, you put table of contents, you skip it. Then page 3, you put introduction, you skip it. Page 4, you put main body, you skip it. Page 5, you put conclusion. Now, when you come to populate those different sections, the computer will naturally space out the paging based on the information you are putting in. So your page 2 may become page 11, ultimately, as you are putting information. But unlike in the olden days when you have to write the intro before you do the body, these days you can get inspired by anything from any angle. So you can start theoretically, you can start your report from anywhere. So you list the points in each section as they occur to you. For instance, in conclusion, when you are talking about a visit to a fire site, you put in conclusion, what is my recommendation? Do they need fire drills? Do they need a new fire management establishment and so on and so forth? When you come to develop those sections, those points will help you to put in all the information that you need. When you have put the points in this section, it is easy for you to establish the level of technical details required. Sometimes it helps you to source the information. If I'm going to make a recommendation that they should buy new fire equipment, I must go now to the internet and find out what fire equipment is relevant. I'm short of time. I'm going to go very quickly through because we won't have time anymore. But I think we've touched on the key issues, the use of graphs and illustrations. I'm going to be fast forwarding on the slides very quickly. You will just see some of them flying past. This document will be available, so you can always look at them after now. Populate different sections. Limit your writing to the scope defined by the sections. Don't try and write too many things in different sections. It will make the write-up verbose. So you must restrict yourself to the sections. Tender reports, prepare tables with figures rising or decreasing. Now here, the point I'm trying to make is that when you are preparing a report, especially a technical report or a thesis, your description must flow along a natural way. If you went to a site to see to do a dilapidation report, the condition on a site, naturally you will drive to the site and enter through the gate. Then you go in the driveway, go to the main entrance, go into the building, go from ground floor to first floor. It will be funny for you to start to describe that building from an office on the third floor because you didn't drop from the sky. You will write the report the way you went into the site and began to enter the space. That will naturally create a flow that the reader can follow. So in academic research, I've said this, use the approved format, follow the arrangement, make sure you mention what you have contributed to the society, and if there are any new discoveries, write them. We've spoken about dissertation and thesis. We've spoken about what counts. We've spoken about plagiarism. Here on the left side, you can see as I scroll down, typical elements of a dissertation that will be available for you. Illustrations are useful. In other words, you can illustrate the heading. This is a typical heading from a thesis or a dissertation prepared for a university. The name of the student is Mr. James Bond. The student number is 007. It's just to create a cover. Now, here are some charts that you can use in a technical report. You're going to be seeing some of them. This one on the left is a study that I did. I want to spend 2 minutes to go through it. It shows the effect of the thickness of insulation materials in reducing the heating requirement in a building. Between the months of May and August, you will find that the amount of energy, heating energy, which is on the left side of the graph, is minimum. But then there's no difference between the different types of insulation. That's why they are same height. Whereas when it is cold, you see that the blue bars are taller than the rest of the color, showing that the 30 mm insulation would not succeed to keep heating as the 120 mm installation will do. So in one graph, similar to this, you can show so many things. This is a table in a technical report. This is a table, it's a bar chart that shows the development of alternative energy sources. You can see 2009, you can see 2018. It shows that there's a progressive rise in the provision of alternative energy sources. This is, by the way, in England. And it shows that the yellow, which is the solar photovoltaics, and the blue, the onshore wind, are proportionately higher than the other. So in one graph, you can see what is happening in that. This is a schematic. It's part of the things you can import from it, manufacture. Excuse me, having a difficulty with this.
Adeniyi Ogunnusi, you are back.
I'm back, okay. Oh, did you lose me for a minute?
We lost you for just some few seconds, but you can now.
Okay, let me leave the rest of the document. Let me thank you for your attention. I hope it was worth your while. I knew I would run out of time because I was passionate about this paper. I wanted people to come out of this paper being able to, about this meeting. I want them to come out of this meeting being able to improve on their delivery concerning report writing. I'm available. You can hire me if you have a project. Mr. Chairman, back to you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, sir. I found it very difficult to stop Engineer Adeniyi Ogunnusi to stop, because at the beginning he said he's going to present for 30-35 minutes and maybe 10-15 minutes for question and answer. He has spent about almost an hour discussing with us. We really thank you.
Me.
It's very difficult to stop you because it's an interesting presentation, and I believe that everybody has taken one or two things. We have gained a lot from what you have discussed. Can we have a round of applause for him? We are on standing ovation at the physical meeting here for you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Yes,
we
sir.
can have another session at some other time to do question and answer.
No, we still have question and answer. Please don't go, please.
Okay.
I know you those of you in the UK, you are time conscious, so, but you still have to give us about 10 minutes. He's speaking with from UK. He's not in Nigeria presently. We thank you. We appreciate you for that. Before we go for the question and answer, I want to recognize some of the big men that entered while the lecture was on. We have
I can't hear you. I can't hear you. So the voice is lost. Please, I can't hear you. Thank you.
am I on now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. After the recognition, No. Okay, you have not. Did you hear me doing the recognition of engineer Yofanimogun FNSE, engineer Shefadeyi, engineer Uche Obi Ajulu, engineer Kunle Adebaju of NIMech.E, our big structural engineer, engineer Suleiman Ajumo, engineer Adeboye Oni, engineer Badulaye, Babajide. You are all welcome. You are all recognized. Please pardon me if I have omitted your name. Please pardon me. I will now go to questions and answer and contribution for the next 10 minutes. If you have any contribution or question, can you please signify so that you can unmute and speak? Thank you. Any comments, question, signify, please. Please unmute and speak.
Excellent presentation. Thanks.
Any other comments? Okay. Any other comments?
Hello.
Go ahead, please. Engineer Kunle Adebaju, please unmute and speak.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, everybody, and very nice to come to this branch of NIMech.E.
Thank you, sir.
I want to say the presenter did a wonderful job, not just in the content, but even in the confidence which he exuded, because that is something which we engineers need to remember, that it's not only the content, but how it's presented. And if you want confidence in what you are doing, then you yourself must exhibit that. The question I will ask the presenter, I know I wasn't able to start from the very beginning, but I would just like to ask him to mention a little bit about the difference between technical report writing and non-technical, because obviously there are some differences. And then also, it has quite rightly mentioned the use of word processing, Microsoft Word, etc. But I just wonder if he has any proprietary type of software or has come across some other specialist tools that will be particularly useful for those preparing technical reports. Finally, I would say, can he also just explain how important it is to check your work, to get maybe a third party to go through, even if it is just to check the grammar, the punctuation, and the spellings. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir. It's noted. Let's go for the second question. Engineer Osman Abraman, unmute and speak, please, so that I can take the two.
Good evening. Mine is not a question per se, but it's just to commend Engineer Ogunnusi for the wonderful presentation he has made this evening. And I think we all need to take a cue from it, that as an engineer, we need to be able to communicate effectively to our clients, to the society, so that we can be heard very well. Most of the problem we have with engineers is that we're not able to communicate to our environment. We can't communicate with ourselves, we can't communicate with other people. But I think he has presented the lecture in a very simple way and demonstrated with a lot of examples for us to take a cue from. And I think is a very good technical session that I've attended this evening. I hope all of us have also enjoyed. Thank you very much for the opportunity of attending your lecture. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. It seems there are no other person that has raised his hand. So, Engineer Adeniyi Ogunnusi, can you respond to the question?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm very glad that the questions came up because it will give me a few more minutes to throw more light into what I've shared. Incidentally, the two people who asked questions are my friends and very senior professional colleagues also. I wish that many more of us will be available to show the younger engineers how to improve in this area. I want to start with Engineer Kunle Adebajo, the difference between technical and non-technical reports. Well, I guess the difference is dependent on the reader. If you are doing a report as a structural engineer for a building, if you got commissioned to do a structural stability report, and you get a team of engineers to come together and they follow a particular procedure to carry out that test, you are now writing a report. If you were writing that report to the director, Ministry of Works, who is an engineer, it will be more technical than if the report was going to the minister's office, who is not a technical person. Sometimes you may need two different reports. Because if you were going to carry out a study like that, let's say you ask them to do Schmidt-Hammer tests, they will do from column to column, from beam to beam. They will come up with a lot of results, which you can tabulate in Excel. I'm going now into tools when you are talking about software. Anything you put in Excel can be demonstrated in a graph or a bar chart or a table. So the first report that we do, which will be read by a technical person, has to have more technical details. We've checked this structure. This is the load-bearing capacity. This is what we found. Because of this difference, this structure cannot stand unless we do this, we reinforce it, and so on and so forth. That's technical, because you're going to be mentioning load-bearing capacity, reinforcement diameter, concrete mix, nature of the aggregate, and so on and so forth. Now, you send that to Fashola, it's not going to make much of it because it doesn't have the technical competence to understand it. There has to be a version. Sometimes when you are not able to do two versions, the less technical part of the report will be in the conclusion. We have checked the columns and the beams. We think 10 of them are okay, 5 are not. Those 5 need to be pulled out and replaced with new ones. Simple. We formed some so and so. You won't be talking there about reinforcement and steel diameter and yield and so on. That will be a non-technical part. So one report can actually have 2 components if it's going to a wider audience. But if you, as country manager of AROP, send your engineers out to do a field report, clearly what they're going to bring to you is all technical because you have no time to be reading political situations. So in that case, they may be submitting a report to you that is 100% technical. You are doing a report to Fashola's office that has to be a mix. You take out some of the structural details and keep in your office. In the event that you have an opportunity to present formally, you can dig from your wealth of experience and buttress what you have written to him with the information that you have kept. So there's no hard and fast rule, but a technical report is one that is understood by people who are technically minded. A general ordinary report can be understood by all. Software, yes, there are proprietary softwares. For instance, if you were doing a structural report for a building and you wanted to show the difference between a flat slab design and one that has beams protruding under the slab, you may be importing details from a Revit model. So in that case, you are also using Revit as a software. But every software that must come into a report, because reports are prepared through word processing, they must be word adaptable. So the regular software that we use is what we will also use to enable us to do a report. That's the same way that we prepare progress reports on project sites. You do a write-up, and then you import files either in PDF or AutoCAD. But once you bring them into Word, you eventually will have to convert them into PDF. It's just that you will not be able to edit the document, but at least you would have succeeded in importing it. So I am not aware of any proprietary software, but you can do almost anything be limited only by the original. So in other words, if you couldn't use a Revit, then you can't import a Revit model, and you need to get someone to do that. So that is the other thing. We were talking about checking the work. Yes, you can get a reviewer. I mentioned that at the beginning. It's good to get a reviewer, get a second person to look through it, who is not under so much stress as you are. But there are also programs or softwares that are used. He has left, Mr. Adebayo. This is useful for those of us who are here at the meeting. There's a software called Grammarly. If you download Grammarly and you send your report through Grammarly, it will highlight all the grammatical errors. One of the most common errors in Nigeria is some people doesn't know. I don't know where they learned that English. People is plural, it can't be doesn't. It's don't know. So if you put it through Grammarly, it will pop up, it will highlight it in red, and you'll be able to see that. Engineer Usman Abdurrahman, very much, I very much appreciate your comment today. Thank you so much. Let me say that every engineer can aspire to be where I am today, because I didn't start out as a journalist. And you know, you can acquire this skill. In my last slide, which I didn't have the privilege to present, I'll just read the content, the penultimate, the last but constant. You too can do a good report. Equip yourself by acquiring the skill. Engage your knowledge through deep thinking. Build up your resource through database. All these projects we are doing, we can have a database. Engineer Usman, I can work with you. I would like to work with you on a database, for instance, that will convert building capacity to floor area. So we say so much kilowatt per square meter for this category of buildings. So when we get architect's drawing, just measure the floor area of volume. You get the capacity without any heat load calculation, because we would have done those calculations for different locations in Nigeria. That's database. Explore your opportunities, and then you should do plenty of practice. Improve yourself through regular training. That you can do through LinkedIn. We spend too much time just sitting and lying around and waste a lot of time on WhatsApp, you know, sharing and reading things that are totally irrelevant. Spend that time on professional endeavors, and you will see how your skill will improve. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think with this request from our members, sorry, we are having some meeting challenge. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Okay, thank you very much. We thank our presenter for this beautiful presentation. There are so many comments at the chat room. They are commending the presenter. We don't need to be reading all. So they are thanking you for the good presentation. We hope to see more of you in the future. And we believe that when we call on you again to come and have this kind of presentation, you'll be glad to answer our call. Thank you so much, and God bless. As we are about to close this meeting for today, some people don't have their real name on their devices. Can you please change your name so that we'll be able to have proper record of the attendance? Some people are having their own whatever as their. Please kindly show your correct name so that we can calculate properly. Thank you very much.
Good evening, sir. My name is
on this note, if there is no other comments.
Mr. Chairman, sir.
Those who are physically present, they are donating.
Mr. Chairman, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, my name is Engineer Jim Ogbadebo. I actually happened to join late, but from the little I've had, I'm really impressed with the presentation, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Please, we don't know your name. Your name is Galas.
My name is Engineer Jim Ogbadebo. Engineer Jim Ogbadebo.
Engineer Jim Ogbadebo. Okay, please.
Yes, sir.
Please let us know your
name. My chairman, I didn't hear my name, but I think I've been there from the time the lecture.
I recognize you, sir. I recognize you.
I didn't hear. Sorry about that.
Mr. Chairman,
because it belongs to my my home, what I say, profession. So the sort of thing before writing and all those sort of things. So it really hit at it. Okay, so it's a great lecture. Thank you very much, sir. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for affording us this opportunity to be part of this wonderful presentation. We so much appreciate. But may I ask for one thing? Can we have a video coverage of the presentation later?
We may not have the video presentation, but the real paper itself, we will send it to our members.
Okay.
You get the paper that has been presented, you get it, but not the video record. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
My chairman, my chairman.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. I want to thank all, and I want to thank the new expo for forging on, for moving on. May I use the opportunity to tell everybody to work very hard to keep the chapter running, and also thank our external and guest presenter. The topic today is very, very timely. Many engineers don't write technical report anymore. They write memos, and they don't know difference when to write memo. They don't know when to write a full report. They don't know when to, make proposals and all that. And this will not only help you at your job, it will also help you for those of you who are doing postgraduate studies. It will help you in your presentation and all that. So I hope to see you guys. I hope to see you guys next week in the inauguration of our national chairman. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my IPC. God bless. Yeah, on finance, for those who are online, you can just donate to our account. The account number is 1013828869 Zenith Bank. I come again. 1013828869 Zenith Bank. 1013828869 Zenith Bank. So we're requesting for your generous donation as usual. Those who are physically present, they have done their own online. We want to hear the alerts. Thank you. God bless. Can somebody move motion for the adjournment of this meeting? Okay. Yeah.
Can we move all the motion for adjournment?
I, Engineer Adelola Olufisayo, move the motion for the adjournment of the meeting.
I, Engineer Oladipo, second the motion for the adjournment of today's meeting.
Oladipo. Seconds.
Thank you. Have you done it on the screen? Have you put the?
We can see the account number from Engineer Wahab Scott. It's already on the chat.
It's on the chat. It's on the chat.
Okay. The account number is on the chat. Just go to the chat room. You see the account number.
Okay.
Thank you very much. We need money to run the acquisition. Thank you. Closing prayer. Thank you. Annual subscription too. Not only donation, annual subscription. Thank you. Closing prayer. Can somebody from the online give us closing prayer? Online member, volunteer. Any volunteer from online?
I volunteer Engineer Adeniyi Ogunnusi FNSE.
My sister, closing prayer.
Okay. Father, we thank you for this meeting that for me personally has been very exciting. We have had many members online and I believe physically too. We thank you that our chapter is forging ahead again. We're very pleased. As we continue, please continue to guide the expo, make them a listening expo as they have been, make us continue to do better and to win from good dynamics yet again. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Hoping to meet everyone next month.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for a wonderful meeting.
Thank you, sir.
We can all unmute and interact. We can interact online. Unmute and interact before you leave.
Engineer, it's nice to see you here. Oh. I'm happy.
Madam, I greet you. Madam, I greet you.
Immediate past chair.
I hail you.
Oh,
my elder.
Immediate past chair. Greetings to
nice
you.
to see you.
Greetings to
we have seen that to Engineer. Thank you very much.
I hail you now.
Engineer Olajide, thank you for the donation.
Well done, well done.
William is so good, long time.
No.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well done, my chair.
Thank you.
Chairman, thank you for the privilege. I appreciate
Thank you,
it.
sir. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I get that one. Okay.
Adeniyi
Ogunnusi, thank you very much.
Birthday boys and girls. You can also donate for your birthday. Birthday boys and girls. Donate.
Rice and stew very plenty.
Engineer Biagulu. How are you?
I'm fine. My able GS.
It's long time now. I hear from you now. How's everything?
We are good though. How the family?
How's madam?
Everybody is fine. Oh.
You are welcome.
Thank you.
We want to see everybody physically next month, yo.
No problem.
Because as of today, we have at least 56, about 60 people online today.
Correct.
Fantastic.
Correct.
Well done. You are welcome.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Are you the one that called me? Somebody called me and said he's coming today. You're not the one. Huh? No, one thing, Kira. And everybody can put join interact. When did you graduate? 2010. No, I was a this is 2022. You are qualified to NSE, foreign, and NIMech.E. No, you just take the form. Give me your number. I will send everything to you. NIMech.E form I send to you. NSE, online. You go online. Foreign, you go online. Email is what I need.